Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for attending our annual State of Agriculture event brought to you by the Marshall Area Chamber of Commerce. For those that do not know me, my name is Brad Gerhard, President of your Marshall Area Chamber of Commerce. Before we move on, I do want to make mention if you need to use the restrooms, they're over in the grandstand over there. Before we start our program today, we have many sponsors I'd like to thank to help put today's event on. It's all on the banner behind me. First Independent Bank, AURI, Legal Estate Planning Solutions, Ag Country Farm Credit Services, MVTV Wireless, Olson Organics, ADM, Invenergy Wind Development, Kibble Equipment, Northwestern Farm Management, and Relco. Thank you all once again for sponsoring today's event. I do want to recognize our elected officials today. State Representative Chris Swedzinski, State Senator Gary Dames, and County Commissioner Tom Andrews. Please help me welcome them. This is our 7th year holding this panel, and why is it important? Agriculture truly is the lifeblood of a community like Marshall. When agriculture does well, as you all know, the economy does that much better. It's related businesses and businesses in general to hear. It's important for ag-related businesses and business in general to hear from panelists that come from different ag backgrounds like we have here today. Our facilitator this year again is Ken Fransky. Come on up, Ken. Ken joined Central Crop Consulting in July 2015. Ken manages technical agronomic training for consultants, internal cross-department education, in-field diagnostic assistance, interactive product training with agriculture companies, and being a communication bridge with the university and industry personnel. Thank you, Ken, for facilitating today's panel. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ken. Ken is going to introduce our panelists.
Thanks, Brad. Well, welcome, everybody. You know, it's very rare on July 23rd you ever hear of a farmer cursing rain, and I've heard it all morning because it fell in the wrong area at the wrong time at the wrong speed again in most situations. But I'm excited to be back. You know, they give me this fancy title of moderator, and I really like to call myself an instigator because we have some things canned up with the 4 panelists I'm going to introduce here shortly. But you know, we really want to get to the audience questions of what's going on in southwest Minnesota around agriculture. The issues, the opportunities, the challenges, the strengths we have, because there's a lot of important people sitting here, not just up on the stage with the 4 panelists, but in the audience that have to go back home and magnify that effort, right? So if you can each talk to 1 to 2 to 10 to 20 other people throughout the course of the day, the week, the months ahead, that's how we get better together. And that's the goal of this type of event, in my opinion. So with that, we're going to bring up the panelists one by one. First, we're going to start with Ben Anderson, who kind of hails up in the Fergus Falls area. Ben is currently the district director for the Minnesota 7th Congressional District, represented by Congresswoman Michelle Fischbach. Ben previously was executive director of the Thief River Falls Chamber of Commerce, administrator of Rural Business Cooperative Service at the U.S. Department of Agriculture under the presidency of George W. Bush, a subcommittee staff director at the U.S. House Committee on Agriculture for U.S. Representative Gil Gutnick, and legislative assistance for U.S. Senator Norm Coleman. That's a lot of civil service. That's a lot of work, a lot of thankless work. But Ben, we're happy to have you here. You're going to bring a wonderful perspective from a broad knowledge base. Our second panelist, Mr. Eric McVeigh. Eric is currently the ADM plant manager here in Marshall, Minnesota, and he's held that role since 2021. He's been with the company for 28 years, starting as a plant superintendent. Eric received his Bachelor of Science in Agriculture and Economics Engineering from the University of Illinois in 1996. As a Gopher alum, I just can't say go Illini. But welcome, Eric. Glad to have you back. I think it was 2-3 years ago you were on the panel for this event. Our third panelist is Mrs. Carolyn Olson. Carolyn grew up in the suburbs of Minneapolis and joined her husband, Jonathan, who I think is in the audience. I thought I saw him walk in. in 1988. Once there, she quickly learned the ropes, performing spring and fall tillage as well as running the combine. Heavily vested in the operation. They have an organic operation here in southwest Minnesota. Carolyn has served in many policy development and leadership roles at both local, state, and the national level. Karen has a passion for bringing people together, not just farmers, but farmers as we climb our food chain together on what can really make for a better future for all of agriculture. Carolyn, welcome back to the group. And our fourth panelist brings a perspective of kind of a 30-mile radius around Marshall, Mr. Brad Verley. Brad works for Minnesota West Community and Technical College as a farm business management instructor. So he does a lot of financial advisory type work, if those aren't familiar with our farm business instructor program. Graduated from St. John's University in 2011 with a Bachelor of Arts in Accounting. Received his MBA here at SMSU in 2019. Brad farms with his family just outside of the Marshall city limits here of corn and soybeans. I know one of their family members is big into beef cattle as well too. He also serves as the board for the Lyon County Corn and Soybean Growers Association. So a very popular grassroots effort both on the corn and soybean side. So with that, here's our four panels. Please help me welcome Brad. All right, to get things rolling and to stimulate questions, concerns, interests we all have in the audience, I'm just going to ask each panelist to give us 1 to 2 challenges they've seen over the last year and 1 to 2 opportunities they've seen develop in the last 1 to 2 years. And then we have a series of canned questions we can go through, but we'd prefer not to maybe. We'd prefer the audience members to ask good questions, and we'll use the canned questions as filler. One ground rule is, for the confident person in the audience that goes first, we're going to ask you to state your name, where you're from, meaning I'm from Marshall, Minnesota, or I'm from Tyler, Minnesota, or I'm from Cottonwood, Minnesota, and what company you work for, if you're a farmer, things like that. That's to benefit the panelists, really, more so than everybody in the audience. Okay? With that, Eric has the microphone, so we're going to just start with you. Then you can choose if you're going to pass it to Ben or pass it to Carolyn. But a couple of challenges, couple opportunities, Eric. Welcome.
Biggest challenge we face is people, and not enough people. So try to keep young people here with all the opportunities. There's tons of jobs, tons of opportunities. Make lots of money. I'll get a high school student. I can start them off at $25 an hour. That's 50 to 75 grand a year, but they don't know about it. So that's a challenge. Opportunities, there's a new plant being built across from me that is a huge opportunity. And that opportunity is being driven by ADM, but it's also by a person that's sitting in the front there, but also by everybody here, because the support and all the opportunity and how they can get parts, people, and tech knowledge and all the supplies brought that company here. So the opportunity is these people here. So thank you.
Policy-wise right now, the Farm Bill is both the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity. So I think we're getting into that with some of our more focused questions later on where that's at and where it's going and everything. But in election years, everything is always unpredictable when it comes to what's happening in Congress. And we've already seen so many unprecedented things this year, obviously, that's just going to add to it and amplify everything. So that's really going to put things in the mix. You know, already in July, there's obviously been such a big focus on the election coming up, and that's just going to grow significantly as we get closer to that date. So where the political schedule, the political environment right now, and just the schedule and availability and days of Congress to get things done and on the floor is a big thing going on right now that we're tracking and trying to be aware of and is important for everybody to be following, obviously.
I would say one challenge in agriculture from a farming perspective is commodity prices. And that's across the board, organic and conventional. We had, in February, we were trying to market some corn and could not get anybody to say, yeah, we'll buy corn. So no corn contracts in the beginning of a year causes a lot of stress. It's become a little bit better, but still commodity prices are to a point where it's causing a lot more stress on the farm itself. So I would say along with that, the low commodity prices, we need to be paying attention to mental health issues. Farmers are at a much greater percent of taking their lives due to stress on the farm than any other occupation that we have in the U.S. And especially, the lenders out there and those that are the peripheral people, your not only your lenders, but your implement dealers, anybody that has, that they're working with the farmers regularly, check on your people and make sure that they're okay. And as far as opportunities, I think, anytime that there's a downturn in commodity prices, farmers become more inventive and we look for more opportunities out there. There could be opportunities, depending on if we can get some things changed on the federal level, of farmers being able to take advantage of selling feedstocks for sustainable aviation fuel and things like that. So there will be more opportunities, I think, for alternative ways to sell your crop rather than just to ethanol or to animal feed.
I would echo Carolyn a little bit on with my job. Profitability is going to be at the forefront. As she said, crop prices, significant reduction over the last 2 years. I would say almost peaked in 2022, and we've had sort of a decline since then. 40% roughly on corn and maybe 30% on beans. And so as I do year-end balance sheets with farmers and run cash flows for next year and look at their accrual income statements, all those sorts of things, and financial ratios, I think we're going to see some deterioration at year-end here. And as we look ahead, I think it will be challenging. I mean, I don't know that anyone thinks it's really going to turn around necessarily. We might be in a cycle like this for a while if history sort of repeats itself. This might be a new norm. So to me, that's one of the big challenges facing farmers in our area right now. I would also say another challenge would be land access, land cost, sale prices, higher rents. Both of those have increased for a number of years here, and we really have yet to see any sort of plateau on that. So I think that is a significant challenge as well. But with that, there may be some changes for operations, and that could provide some opportunity as well for, I've worked with many younger beginning farmers trying to get their foot in the door, and, there could be some changes coming as well that could shift land around that might give them an opportunity to get in as well.
Wonderful. Are we stimulated? So who's the brave soul who wants to push the hand up of the person sitting to your left or right to ask the first question from the audience? Don't be bashful. Now's your time to pick out your best friend and embarrass him. Yeah, right here. One of the guys, Brad, you want the microphone? We'll get it back so we can all hear the question.
You have a lot of confidence. Thank you. Ben Swanson. Sorry. AURI. My question involves kind of innovation and technology. In your fields or your respected areas, what do you see as a technological innovation that's coming up that's going to be a great boon for a lot of farmers out there? Not just 10, 15 years down the road, but within our, within the next couple years.
Who'd like to jump on it?
Yeah, I'll start with that one. So I had the opportunity to attend an event at the University of Minnesota St. Paul campus on AI and climate. So AI in this case is the artificial intelligence. So for the livestock farmers out there. So what was talked about there and what was exciting to me is I think there were 9 universities represented at that event. And they really are looking at what the farmers' needs are and how can they help farmers in the field, either using robotics for weed control or for pest control or for diagnostics, using drone technology, all of that. And they're looking at practical applications for AI. And to me, that is an exciting potential. We're already in the era, I think, Ken, you can talk on this, that using drones for multiple different things. It's not just for looking where the wet spots are in your field far away from the road. You can do a lot of things. You can seed cover crops with drones. You can spray herbicides with drones. And now I believe it's out, but you can also diagnose issues using drones and the technology that they have. To me, that's exciting. It's less fuel that you need to drive up and down your field to look for, or sending a person out. If you can send a drone out, that's awesome, time saver. But also the one thing that we're cautious on that is the data and who owns it and what happens with that data. So there's an exciting thing, but yet there's a concern on the other end as well.
Eric, I want to pick on you as a panelist a little bit. Huge employer in Marshall, ADM in the surrounding area. Got an expansion going across the road, you mentioned earlier, creates opportunity, but you also mentioned labor. So from a processing standpoint to the question on efficiencies, technologies, can you speak to that? And is there any technologies that you see shoring up that labor shortage of a human body not being able to fill a spot on the team?
Couple answers to that, but on the innovation side, a big deal, not the farmer, but as the processor, we want to see, and there's a bigger and bigger market for precision ag, and what's your CI score? Because I'm going to ask, and you have to sign your name onto it, and then that can go through that.
CI score, carbon intensity score.
Carbon intensity score.
Carbon's the new green revolution, along with reducing environmental risks. Yep.
All of that technology, and that's available right now. It costs money, but you can use it more and more, and then I can use it, and then I can sell it, and so I see that growing more and more. So as far as at the plant level, automation, computers, AI, we're not integrated with AI yet, though there are some research projects looking at it, but we're not that far. But automation, they can help with the labor shortages, they can help with training. As I get new people, they're more and more used to automation and computers and all that. If you come into my plant, one thing that always surprises everything, when you go in and see it, it's all computers. There's computers everywhere and there's screens everywhere. Right, Maggie? So we do that. And then if you can't reach things, we have tools and systems that can help you reach things, move things, lift things, do things. There's all those as options and abilities that we can work with. We can work with lots of people. So lots of technology, but you need people that can utilize that technology and figure out ways to make it work. So, okay.
Artificial intelligence is only as good as the data going into the system. Nothing's changed. Garbage in, garbage out, right? The plant shuts down. The combine shuts down. The car doesn't move. So we still have to have skilled laborers that understand what's going into the computer or the algorithm or the software platform, and then it's going to power itself by just constantly giving it more and more good information. If we just put a lot of crap in there, it's useless. It's useless. And then we got to go back to artificial insemination to increase the genetic gene pool, right? Different AI, the old school AI. you know. But Ben, do you have some things to add, or I'm gonna bridge then off a comment that Eric made as well too.
Yeah, I would say policy-wise, the biggest thing to do is just to continue to support those value-added opportunities for farmers, cooperatives, and then it ultimately gets up to the ag industry business side of things as well. Years ago on renewable fuels, when I worked at USDA, the big thing that we were developing programs around based on the Farm Bill at that time was cellulosic renewable fuels, ethanol and so on. And we were really getting that launched. And now we're evolving, like Carolyn said, into aviation fuels. So there's always huge potential for agriculture in the whole chain, from on the ground with the farmers in the fields up to the co-ops that they're members of, all the companies that they work with, to the large plants like Eric runs. So we're always looking to support things like that through Michelle's office with what they're looking to do. The Solugen example is a good one. She was supporting that. At SMSU, all the things that they're trying to do through research is really important. She's been championing that as well. So we just really need policies that open that up and unleash it, and do not provide the burdens and regulations that our farmers, our researchers, and our ag companies need. That's really important from all aspects, whether it's programs to help farmers, whether it's tax policies, tax credits to help companies and farmers in their operations as well. But those are the things to look through in this sense.
Wonderful. Next question. Yeah, you know, we can't call it a shirt color, so you have to pick somebody you know or read their name tag. So let's bridge a little bit. Farm Bill's expired, correct?
It's extended right now, the previous one.
Yep. The previous one expired, extended it. We need to get some work done there at a very high level. I'm going to kind of frame this question up because Ben has the mic, and then I think I'm going to throw it down to you, Brad, so I'll give you some time to think. Where are we at? What's developing? Will we have a new one, or will we ride 2024 into 2025 with the expired, what we'll call the current Farm Bill today? And then to that, Brad, in your line of work as a farm business management instructor, what are you hearing from the growers, the farmer clientele that you work with, that are some of their top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 needs within a new Farm Bill? What's good with it, maybe what could be improved upon it. So Ben, give us an update, please.
Yeah, so a lot of unknowns, as I talked about earlier, with the congressional schedule and the election coming up. But the current one is extended through September of this year. The House, I'll say, has been on schedule with their work. They got it out of the committee in May. G.T. Thompson, the chairman of the House Ag Committee, is basically, I think, ready to get it on the floor. Again, depending on where all the other pieces of legislation that they need to focus on and get done. Congress, at least on the House side, has, and I think overall with the Senate as well, but they've come back to all the appropriations bills, and that's one of the things that's really been guiding the schedule at this point. So on the Senate side, they have a little more work to do. They're a little behind compared to the House with the Farm Bill. So there's hope that they're going to kind of get that together, prioritize that, do like the kind of internal work within the Senate and the committee that they need to do to get the bill ready to come forward. But it very likely could be a thing that possibly has to get extended again, possibly as a lame duck situation. There's a lot of things like that. And then we have to think, if it doesn't get done this year, and especially if we have a changeover in the administration, that there's going to just be a lot of new things that Congress is going to have to do with a new administration, with various like appointments, getting committees reorganized depending on if there's any changes to either the House or the Senate after the elections as well. So that kind of basic organizing work with a new Congress and especially a new administration takes some time and could push things back more. So I think on the House side with Michelle and other members, it's just the message is Senate, continue to get done what you need to do, continue to talk about and focus on the need to get the Farm Bill done. And we need those assurances. The current Farm Bill, I think, is good for agriculture in a lot of ways, but markets, the things we're talking about, markets, prices, trade, input costs, everything, those obviously change. And at some point, even if existing programs in a farm bill is good, the environment has just changed and we just need updated programs. So that's the biggest thing that we're pushing and talking about.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges with any sort of nationwide program is trying to make it fit and make sense for everyone, and that's the challenge. So there's a couple things that I think, I don't know, I would like to see improved upon, or maybe, whether it's updated or revamped. But we look at base acres are part of the calculation in the farm bill with our county and PLC and those programs, and these base acres, I don't know when they were originally set, but there's really nothing you can do to change them at this point. So they may or may not match the crops you're planting. So I think that might be something to look at. That how do we want to change that? Another big piece to me is reference price. As Ben said, markets have changed, input costs have changed. So having these reference prices, I think. In this last farm bill, the one we're currently in, I think the corn reference price was $3.70 and beans were $8.40, I believe. We're going to need to see that come up. This is supposed to be a safety net for farms at those levels. It's just so low. It's too far down. And the other piece, I would say, a big part would be crop insurance. I think most farms would not be opposed to having some additional dollars in the farm bill to help with the crop insurance premiums. I think it's a big piece of the farm bill. To me, I guess it would help.
Wonderful. Thank you. Next question. Maybe a comment. Okay. We'll keep drilling deeper. Oh, we have a pause.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, Rafael Onyahala at Southwest Minnesota State. So, I'll take us back to, the challenges, especially the labor and innovation. How can we help? How can higher education help? How can Southwest Minnesota State and Minnesota West, how can we partner, with the ag community and bridge the gap that currently exists, whether, for Eric, whether it's skilled or unskilled level?
There's lots of opportunities that we'd like to look at if we can figure out how to make them work. We get asked all the time what kind of skills people need. For me, and I think a lot of businesses in the area, the skills I need are I need people to show up to work. And yeah, everybody laughed at that, but that's a tough one. I need people to be able to work together. A lot of the skills we need, we teach, but we need just basic, I can work, and I work hard, and I can do things myself without being told every step in the world. But when we get to, hey, these are some more technical ones, more help would be great on how things work. Even some basic math and technical skills are all very useful. So those are things we could work together on.
I would add, look at the services surrounding, not just processing, but services that surround farmers. What do we need? We need people like Brad, who helps us figure out our operating costs, where we're going, if we're okay. We need our implement dealers. We need their parts departments. We need their skilled mechanics. We need, just go down the list. We need ag lenders that understand agriculture and have that background. We need all of the people that are in that periphery. We need our agronomists. We need our, our technologists, that help us on the field. We need our ag engineers. We need all of that. We also need ag communicators. And I think SMSU is doing a good job in some of those areas, but I really think what we're seeing right now is the lack of workforce, particularly in the areas of ag mechanics and the get your hands dirty, hands-on types of things where, I don't know if it's a lack of knowledge that, people think, oh, I can go into that and make a good career out of that, or if it's just that we've so long not talked highly of those skilled laborers. So I think that is an area where we really need people as well. And I would also comment on the importance of rural vitality. What will draw people into our area? What will make them stay? And we can't ignore that either. What will make somebody that's going to SMSU stay in our area? What will make them stay in Lyon County or the surrounding counties to work? And I think rural vitality has a very important aspect of that. How is our broadband? What are our services that are available? What are our retail experiences here in the area? We need to be looking at all of that. And I know Farm Business Management has a number that they come out, and the impact of what one farm, the financial impact that they have on their rural community. And in the last book, it was over $1 million. So if you look at every farmer in Lyon County having that kind of an impact, okay, are we helping more people to stay in, to help those farmers to thrive and to stay in the area? So it's a multifaceted need that we have, but I think, working together with the college, working together with our communities, our cities in the county is important as well.
Ben? What? This labor force is changing. I see it in our line of work, the fundamentals of agronomy, soil science, plant physiology, animal husbandry, things like that, is changing to things maybe that Eric's got a degree in. Electronics, computer technology, because we're getting more sophisticated. Back to the technology question and the innovation question. Maybe, the next 30 years of my career aren't going to be dragging somebody with work boots on, getting dusty and dirty and muddy and out there on a rainy morning just because it's fun. Because the kids don't want to do that. They want to sit in the office, look at it on the computer screen, maybe point me in the right direction because I'm willing to go and get muddy and dirty and sweat on a day like today. But we've got to find that balance, I think, too, of the workforce. Ben, continue on, please.
I think what Carolyn said is really important, that full picture, that full economic picture. If there was like one phrase to kind of sum up what Michelle uses to guide her work, it's strong rural community. She says that over and over as she's in meetings, and it really applies to pretty much everything she does, whether it's meeting with farmers, meeting with local leaders, meeting with healthcare providers, whatever sort of issue in the whole spectrum. And so that's what we kind of use to guide our work. But to the specific question, I think just for the educators and the universities and so on, I think just keep doing what you're doing. Be innovative, be developing things in partnerships with local companies, local farmers, and having that focus. I think that's necessary, whether it's SMSU, the University of Minnesota, across the state, or whoever it might be.
Next question is from
Good afternoon. Brad Slusher. I am the director of the Minnesota Agriculture and Rural Leadership Program, SMSU signature program. Delighted to be supporting individuals in that manner. Prior to participating in Marl and now supporting, I was an agricultural educator. Taught here in Marshall a couple decades ago and a variety of other locations. And so this question has been touched a little bit, but I'd like to better understand your perspective. I've recruited 1,000 plus young people into agriculture, and pleasant ride that has been, pretty challenging as well. I'm wondering what's the most recent conversation you had with a young person about actually staying here in Lyon County or southwestern Minnesota, and what opportunity they can anticipate in our region. Please.
That's a fun one. Ben, you want to start this the other way, or think about it and pass the mic to somebody else?
Yeah, I can say a few things about that. I think it's good whenever we're in this area with Michelle doing meetings that there's always young people there, whether it's we're meeting with a farm family, whether we're at SMSU and they bring in their students and they share what they're working on and their excitement. So I think we just really appreciate those stories and the programs that are done, whether it's for an undergraduate, a graduate, or just young leaders through Marl. But their stories are just really inspiring and good to hear, and I think it gives us good hope for the future. So thanks, Brad, for all your work in that question.
I would say, Brad, that young people are our key. We work with SMSU, we've worked with Midwest, we've worked with MHS, we've worked with a variety of other high schools around to try to work with those kids and show them some opportunities. Again, a lot of people don't really understand what some of those opportunities are. There's a lot here. We do that also with put a plug in for Marshall Leadership Academy. Shows all the different things here that you can do. So the more we can get that out, I think, and get to those kids, and maybe we haven't tried this, but it's been brought up, maybe we need to talk to their parents, because we haven't suggested that people can do things other than go to a four-year university and get a tech degree or this or that. There's lots of other things. We talked about all the ag mechanics. Those machines don't just run all by themselves. They need a lot of love and attention, and they need a lot of people and schooling to work on that. So there's opportunities that people just don't even know about. So if we can help with that, I think that's a big deal.
That also was a very convicting question. Anybody else feel a little convicted, like what have I done lately to encourage somebody to stay in the area? One thing that I've done is try and be a mentor to students. I've been invited to be part of the SMSU Ag Club in the past. I've spoken to some of their classes about what I do in agriculture and kind of who supports us. And through Farm Bureau, where I get probably the most contact with young people, it's encouraging them where they are. So not just in Lyon County, but in their home counties. Encouraging them to that, what their dream is and what their goals are not silly. It's not a cop-out if they decide not to go to college and they're going straight into farming. It's not bad to go to a 2-year school if that's what they choose to do, but encouraging them to stay within agriculture. One of our nieces is a 4-H extension educator in her county, and she kind of was hesitant to go back to her home county, but now she has re-fallen in love with her county through the eyes of her 4-H kids. And I think encouraging our kids to come back, but then not treating them the same as what they were in high school, treating them as adults is also important for us to do once they do come back. We've seen both things happen where they can't get past how they were in high school, and then they're stuck in that spot in your head, or treating them as a peer and encouraging them in their line of work. And I think those that are encouraged are more likely to stay.
I would say some of my involvement would be through, I'm on the board for the Lyon County Corn and Soybean Growers Association, so we've supported a few different events like Ag Bowl at SMSU, and also we've had some involvement here at the fairgrounds, actually bringing in some, I think it was anywhere from kindergarten up through middle school, I believe, and just trying to open their eyes a little bit to what is out there in the world of ag, and where can they fit in, like we talked about. I mean, there's just a wide array of these peripheral positions, really, that ultimately support ag and farmers in our community. So that'd be one piece for me. And then in my job, most of my conversations are usually, at the kitchen table. these people are farming full time the way it is, but so I'm not really pulling them into it. They're already in it, but a lot of times they're kids. It's whether they're just graduating high school or they're at college or just coming back from college. They're kind of trying to figure out, or maybe they're out of college 5-10 years and they're trying to figure out, all right, how does my place in this farm, how do I figure this out? How do I fit in here and kind of make my own way? So I've had a lot of those conversations in the past few years, just trying to find a spot for them in their operation and figuring out a way to make that work and what that means. It's not just a 9-to-5 job, but really this lifestyle that they're gonna have, and that hopefully will fit into what their goals and dreams are as well. So.
I'd almost like to throw it back to Brad. Give us one of your top secrets of getting 1,000 young people into agriculture. If you could list number one, what is it, Brad?
From experience, I would identify the importance of a relationship. So maybe that is a grandchild. Maybe that is a young person that is attending a 4-H meeting or career development or leadership development with the FFA chapter, and a young person has some interest, and you indicate to them that you've got some expertise, and so build the relationship with them, encourage them, discover what challenges they have, and be there to share some advice, that encouragement. I heard motivation and encouragement a number of times. Help them to grow. We all need a growth plan, so help them to grow.
Brad's somewhere over here in the question is he's running across. One thing I want to remind you is we'll maybe dive into some numbers off and on today, is in the United States, it's well less than 2% of our population in the United States is actively involved in production agriculture. So getting it planted in and out of the field or out of the livestock facility, it's less than 2%. I wish I knew off the top of my head the actual percentage of how many people are involved in agriculture. We take a panoramic view of processing, hauling, grocery stores. It scales up probably between 40 and 50%, roughly. I don't remember the exact numbers. So, to Brad's point, that conversation isn't just about, am I going to go back home and work on the farm with Brad as a young little boy? Maybe I should get to know Eric a little bit better, because that big plant intrigues me. I want to know what's inside the walls when I'm 5 years old. Jerry, to you.
Hi, Jerry Tolan. I'm department chair for the Department of Agriculture, Culinology, and Hospitality Management, which we always like to think about as farm to the table or farm to the fork. I guess my question is the level of support maybe across the board in doing a program that we just actually sponsored got support for this past week. Last week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, SMSU sponsored its first what we call Ag Camp for middle school kids. Just to give you an idea, we basically said no charge for admission. We just need folks to kind of come to a day camp. We actually were successful in having 23 kids become part of that program. Just to give you an idea what we were able to do on Monday last week, their first trip was out to Lingen Dairy. And that was a wonderful tour of that dairy farm. And then we made our way over to True Shrimp and Agnition, through the connection with Ralco. And that was Monday, and the kids really got turned on to some of the basic things that maybe they hadn't seen before. The very next morning, Tuesday, we were actually invited to go through a production facility for Schwan. And the kids basically saw the ingredients and got a sense of the importance of biosecurity, and went from basically from the beginning of the production line to the end. And at the end of the production line, they had a nice little lunchroom where we all had chicken quesadillas, which was really good. And then and that afternoon, Then we actually had the kids come out to the SMSU field trial site, and the Natural Resource Conservation Service was there, and they basically did hands-on about water infiltration into soils and what makes that happen better in terms of how taking a look at what we do for soil health. And then on the following morning, thanks to Scott Keeker, our local veterinarian, we basically had the kids be able to be with some animals, 2 lambs, a goat, and a baby calf, and they had a chance to hold them in their hands and also talk about nutrition and care of what it means to be taking care of animals. And then that afternoon, thanks to AURI, the kids basically had a chance to make cheese. They also worked with a scientist and looked at the difference between an acid and a base, and they made something called oobleck, which is a change in formation from water to solid and back again. And then the topper was they also had a chance to make sausage. And basically, they made the sausage, they did a tour, and then they came back and ate all their sausages, and it was great. So I'm just saying that I think probably we need to do more of that kind of thing to get our kids excited about that. And maybe we can come up with a program where we can, I don't know, scale it up or put more visibility on that kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Jerry. A couple of things. I would say, first of all, I think if you continue that program on, I would expect that it will grow just from the sounds of it. I mean, my second question was, is it just for middle schoolers, or am I allowed to come next year? Are adults allowed? Sounded like a great day. And then I was just going to echo, Ken had mentioned that 2%, and I just thought it was interesting. I had about 2% of farms, or 2% of the population involved in production today, and I had looked that up this morning, actually, and like 100 years ago, 1920s, 25% of the population was actively involved in production ag. So just another challenge that it didn't make my list when we started off here, but just that disconnect, I think, between farm to table is getting further and further apart. More generations are becoming removed from the farm. I mean, here we're in rural Minnesota, a lot of connections to the farm yet, I feel like, but it's just getting farther and farther away.
I will also comment, I heard so many good things about Ag Camp, and just on the social media feeds from those that were attending, that was an incredible event. At the same time that SMSU was doing that, through Ag in the Classroom, Jonathan and I hosted about 70 first through fourth graders on our farm at one time. And we live to tell about it. They got to see inside the pig barns. We did not take them in, biosecurity reasons, but they got to look through the curtain sides. And one little boy said to Jonathan, he has never seen a pig in real life. He's only seen them on television. So, in those kind of actions, I mean, like, I didn't even mention it before because to me that's just minor. We host tours fairly regularly for different groups of people. They'll call up and say, hey, can we come over? And we'll say, sure. So for me, that's just something that we've made it part of how we operate our farm, is we like to be open for people to come and visit. And we make sure that, like, we had a combine outside, we had a track tractor, we had a wheeled tractor, we had alfalfa bales that they could smell the alfalfa and see kind of how big they are. We had a semi-tractor out there. They could climb in all of those and kind of get that part of the experience. So we'll keep doing that, Jerry, so that you can have more kids for your Ag Day.
I'm kind of with Brad. Sign me up for next year's adult tour. Let's catch a winery and a brewery, and it's the trifecta, Brad.
I'm in.
I mean, if we're all about having fun in Southwest Minnesota and agriculture, I mean, the more we eat, the more we drink, the more we support ourselves, is the way I kind of look at it. Self-sustainability, I think that's technically called in a textbook somewhere. Another question, or I've got one that kind of ties to this that came in via email, and it kind of revolves around the legislative side of our industry, of opportunities versus stepping out of boundaries, maybe. When do regulations help us? And how do we expand because of some of the infrastructure money that's now making its way into agriculture for climate smart initiatives, carbon intensity programs that Eric mentioned? Where do we separate opportunity versus restriction potentially? And that's a big question and a big topic, but I know it's on some people's minds.
Big question. Notice they all just passed the mic straight down
We're all
here.
kind of staring at you.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely an important question. I think in general with ag policy, it's a really good thing that there is a lot of collaboration that goes into the programs and the regulations. Again, speaking generally, between Republicans and Democrats, between Congress and the Ag Department, both at the state and the federal level, and in conjunction with all the farm groups. And the farm groups, they do an incredible, especially the Farm Bureau does an incredible job with getting their members to the state capitol, to the Capitol in DC as well, to be involved and make sure that their voice is heard on these issues. So that's really important. I think we also, though, have to watch out for some of these environmental proposals and ideas and make sure that those are developed in the way that they need to. Sometimes I think the concern that we hear from farmers is that these policies are moving too fast, and it's not something that farmers and rural communities are ready for. So we want to make sure that with everything in agriculture, it goes kind of through the process like I described, where there is a lot of collaboration. It is workable for farmers and cooperatives and the agribusinesses and so on. There's probably going to be, if the administration changes over next year, you can guess that there's going to be a lot of changes with that and what sort of the federal government's focuses are going to be. So that'll be something to watch out for. I also think it's really important to track specifically on the environmental side, the water side of things, because there's always a specific interest in that, in regulating what we would think is, just possibly like a ditch or something, and tying that into like the same sort of regulations that you would have for like a lake, larger actual bodies of water. So those are kind of some of the topics that we hear from and that we're trying to make sure works in a right way. Going back to the administrations, the first Trump administration, they were very much had a general priority to have less regulation through government, through all the programs, whatever it might be. So that could be another thing that would be coming back again. And then just the recent Supreme Court case on the Chevron decision, that's really going to change everything as well. And that basically says that all these government agencies, speaking generally, they can't just decide how the things should look and how things should work and come up with it on their own without any input from Congress or the people or the constituents. So that's going to really shift everything going forward.
Ben, kind of a follow-up question. Is this scaling up where we're at a point in the United States political field that there's more being looked at an international basis, especially around agriculture, climate type programs, things like that?
Yeah, totally. That always happens. We hear from farmers all the time that to see what's coming for American agriculture, just look to what's happening with the EU, and that's everything from the type of equipment, the type of policies, the type of programs, the type of priorities. So there's some things, I know there was a question that was submitted about the EU and traceability of crops and everything, and that I know that's a thing right now. There's a group based out of the Twin Cities, but it's statewide, called I think it's the Minnesota Business Export Council. It's a group of former and current business folks that work for companies like Cargill and other ag-based businesses, and they've been tracking this. They did a briefing for congressional staff about it, and it's kind of frightening what is being proposed out there through the European governments and what that would mean for us. But essentially, it could be so severe where cooperatives and farmers would literally have to track where specific, like a soybean plant or specific crop is coming from all the way through the supply chain. And so you can imagine what sort of nightmare that would be for everybody in American agriculture. So in that briefing that I was in a month ago, I was happy to hear that our U.S. officials abroad that are tracking this and weighing in on it were understood the severity of the issue. So those are definitely things that we're tracking, always tracking.
I might comment on the tracking part of things. As an organic farmer, we track a lot of things. We have our lot numbers for each load of grain sold has a lot number on it, which indicates which field it was grown in, which bin it was stored in, and the year it was grown. But once you commingle products, here's the list of numbers for everybody's products in this batch of cornflakes. That's where I see the issue as being too onerous, is if they want it that granular, it's going to take a lot more time and space and people power, basically, to make sure that everything is that segregated that you can have that traceability. Once things get commingled, that's pretty much impossible.
All right. Brad has given the signal. One more high-quality question. And to respect everybody's time, that'll have to kind of put a wrap on things for today and this year. Who has it? Who wants it? Oh, everybody's beat down, tired. Okay, let's wrap up then with dollars that circulate in our areas. Okay? 1,000-acre corn soybean farmer in Lyon County, Minnesota. Today's cost of production, Brad, on an acre of corn, somewhere between 700 and 1,000. You pick a number.
Yeah, I would say maybe in that, rented. If you're renting the land, I would say maybe in 900 or above a little bit.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's keep it simple. We're going to round it up to 1,000.
Okay.
And farmers are kind of creatures of habit. Half's going to be corn in my 1,000 acres, half's going to be soybeans. So 500 acres of corn cost $1,000 an acre for inputs is $500,000. Dollars circulated. Now, the other half, the 500 acres of soybean, rough cost of production, Brad?
We'll round to 600 then.
600. 600 times 500 acres is another $300,000. So we're right at scratching about $1 million for one farm operation in only Lyon County, Minnesota. $1 million circulating, not being spent, but being invested. Now to Eric, how many bushels of corn come through the ADM plant here in Marshall alone? About 200,000 bushels a day. A day. So a 500-acre corn farmer achieving a 200 bushel per acre yield goal is how many bushels of corn? 100,000. So 2,000-acre corn farmers feed Eric's plant one day together. That's called the buddy system. And then we need 2 more buddies tomorrow. And if he's operating 365 days a year, we need a lot more buddies, and we're probably outside the realm of Lyon County, Minnesota. And that's not even talking to the export, of the oil, the protein, the DDGs leaving Eric's plant as well, too. With that, one last closing comment from Brad, Carolyn, Eric, and Ben.
I would just, off of that, I would echo, looking at this cost of production number that we're talking about. So you got that maybe $900 an acre on corn. I figured maybe, at 190 bushel corn, you're looking at $5 cost of production. Today's prices for fall are at $3.90 a bushel. On beans, cost of production maybe around anywhere from, high 10s to 12. And the cash price for fall is at $10.10 right now. So I would just keep that in mind as we move forward. We're probably gonna have some challenges. We've been through long stretches of time as well where margins were tight. So just something to keep in mind.
One thing I would say probably is, relating to the low commodity prices that I started talking about, at the beginning of today. You touched kind of on it, is, we are more than Lyon County. We depend, our companies here depend on more than Lyon County, but also farmers here depend on more than ADM. They depend on more than Relco. They depend on more than the services that we have in Lyon County. We also depend on the global market as well, and we have not had a good trade situation for a long time. We have probably the biggest trade deficit that we've ever had. And I think until that gets fixed, I don't see that we'll have an increase in, a good solid increase in commodity prices, and that's both conventional and organic. Organic typically has a higher level, and people say, oh, you must be raking in the bucks. We're tight as well. So, and our lender is over there, so cover your ears. But, it is that way all over, and we need the same things. We need all of the services we have in Lyon County and beyond. We need our regulations to not be overly burdensome. We do need regulations, but not overly burdensome. And we need a good trade policy, and I think that helps the whole industry.
My takeaway is there's just lots of opportunities. All the different places and people, all of the people here, they affect lots of other people. So if we can keep our young people interested in that and keep them here and growing, we're all in good shape. And there's lots of opportunities for people to do that. We just got to help them understand what those are and find the right fit.
Well, that scenario or situation that Ken framed out and what everyone else just added to, that's just reiterates the need for strong farm programs and policies through the Farm Bill, and that's Michelle's priority. Because of her engagement on these issues since she's been into Congress and her good relationship with Chairman Thompson and other leadership in the House, all her priorities, which is based on feedback from the district, has been in the, is in the House version of the Farm Bill. So starting, Brad mentioned this earlier, crop insurance and having that as a strong program, the ability for farmers to buy up into it as they need to. As Carolyn just said, another priority was foreign market development and market access programs, expanding them and making sure that those work and have the resources that they need. Important to Minnesota is a strong sugar program for the 3 sugar beet cooperatives in Minnesota and western Minnesota. So making sure that is in place. And then also, we haven't touched much on this, but just programs that help our livestock producers, all types of livestock producers, with the threats of illnesses that they're facing, whether that's swine fever or, unfortunately now, avian influenza that's has remained consistent but is now getting into cows. So those are the things that she's been focusing on and that we're continuing to push for.
Wonderful. So to wrap things up, thanks to all you sitting at the picnic tables. Thanks to the Chamber and all the extension of the Chamber and the efforts that went into putting this together. The sponsors that Brad listed off right away to launch the 2024 State of Ag update today. And to our panelists for not only taking the time behind the scenes and today for the last hour or so, but your preparedness, your passion, sharing some secrets. And now as we all go home, travel safe. Enjoy the rest of your summer. For the farmers that are in the audience, have a safe fall, but spread the word, right? Who are you going to talk to? 1 person today, 1 tomorrow, 10 the next day, 10 over the next 60 days about agriculture. What are the reasons why agriculture is successful in southwest Minnesota and really the staple of our economies? I mean, all those industries collectively combined. And then communicate back to some of the panelists, whether that's from a legislative issue, corn soybean growers, farm business management. Maybe you know somebody who'd work and come to work every day for Eric in the plant, going to college right now. Maybe going to graduate from high school. Communication's that hub that really makes us better tomorrow and more successful into the future. So with that, everybody, thanks on behalf of everybody, the sponsors, the panelists. Give the panelists a round of applause. Travel safe home.